On a winter evening in December 2009, the grand ballroom of Abu Dhabi's Marina Hotel shimmered with the warmth of celebration. Crystal chandeliers bathed nearly 300 guests in golden light as silk and embroidery created a tapestry of tradition and hope. At the center stood Hiba Mansour, 25 years old and radiant in her bridal attire, her decorated hands folded gracefully as both families offered their blessings. In Abu Dhabi, where ambition transforms desert into destiny, this young woman's dream wedding concealed a truth so dark it would end in death, shame, and the complete destruction of everyone involved. Hiba had always been determined. Born and raised in Abu Dhabi to middle-class Egyptian expatriate parents, she transformed her artistic talent into a successful bridal makeup business. Working from her apartment in Al Khalidia, she built her reputation one transformed bride at a time, dreaming of studios across the Gulf, expanding to Qatar, Bahrain, perhaps internationally. Every morning brought messages from potential clients, proof of a business built on creativity and the belief that every woman deserved beauty on her most important day. Through Abu Dhabi's tight-knit Egyptian community, Faris Mansour first heard about this talented young woman. At 55, Faris commanded respect everywhere. His 27 years as a municipal planning official earned him a reputation for integrity, shone through the elegant villa he owned in Al Raha Beach, purchased when vision and timing could change lives overnight. Every Friday, his presence at the Grand Mosque drew respectful greetings from men who valued his wisdom and admired his dedication. Faris had raised his son Tariq alone since his wife's death 9 years earlier, and the community watched as this devoted father poured everything into ensuring his son's future. At 28, Tariq seemed pleasantly quiet to those who met him. His gentle features and respectful manner suggested excellent upbringing. When friends began suggesting marriage, Faris carefully searched for the perfect daughter-in-law. The proposal meeting unfolded in the elegant sitting room of the Mansour home, where Persian carpets covered marble and Arabic calligraphy adorned walls in gold. Hiba's parents, impressed by the understated luxury and warm hospitality, felt fortune had smiled upon their ambitious daughter. When Tariq appeared to serve tea with cardamom and dates, his quiet nature and youthful charm reinforced their positive impression. Faris spoke of his son with obvious affection, describing him as calm and gentle, someone who would provide stability. When questions arose about Tariq's work, Faris smoothly explained his son helped manage their properties, learning the family business gradually. The young man contributed little to conversation, but everyone attributed this to respect for elders and natural shyness. Before we continue with what happened next, I want to ask you something. If you find value in these true stories, please subscribe to Crime Canvas. Your subscription motivates us to research, write, and deliver these important stories with the care and respect they deserve. Every subscriber encourages us to give our absolute best. Now let's return to Hiba's story. The wedding ceremony unfolded with traditional beauty. During the ceremony, Tariq sat beside the religious officiant, following his father's whispered guidance about when to speak. His nervousness seemed typical for any groom, though Hiba noticed something almost childlike in his excitement about the elaborate cake. He clapped his hands with genuine delight, bouncing slightly as he marveled at its decoration. When Faris helped guide their hands on the knife for the ceremonial cutting, there was something oddly parental about the gesture that stayed in Hiba's memory. The wedding night shattered every romantic expectation. Instead of the intimate conversation she had nervously anticipated, Tariq immediately turned on the television, searching channels until he found cartoons. He settled on the bed, fully clothed, becoming completely absorbed in an animated movie. When she gently tried to discuss their future, he looked at her with innocent confusion and asked if she enjoyed cartoons, mentioning he had many more at home. The truth emerged gradually over the following weeks. Tariq's daily routine resembled that of a much younger person. Waking late, watching cartoons during breakfast, spending hours with building blocks and toy cars, requiring afternoon naps. When Hiba attempted conversations about work, household management, or their relationship, he responded with the simple directness of someone whose emotional development had stopped years earlier. The most chilling revelation came when she asked him directly about marriage and what it meant. His response revealed the calculated deception that had trapped her. He understood marriage as simply meaning she lived there now to help take care of him, exactly as his father had explained. After 3 weeks of growing horror, Hiba insisted on medical consultation. Dr. Fatima Hassan's evaluation confirmed her worst fears. Tariq had moderate intellectual disability with cognitive and emotional development at around age 8. This condition had existed since birth and would never change. The confrontation with Faris occurred in the same beautiful room where their families had first met with such hope. His defensive explanations revealed the full scope of deception. They had deliberately misrepresented Tariq's condition, hoping Hiba would learn to love him despite his limitations and serve as his lifelong caregiver. At 25, with dreams of building her own business, Hiba found herself imprisoned in a marriage that was really an unpaid caregiving position. When she mentioned divorce, Faris's response was swift and brutal. Such action would bring shame to both families. He urged her to give the situation time, to find happiness within the circumstances they had created. Sitting in that beautiful room surrounded by symbols of success and respectability, Hiba realized her dream had become a beautifully decorated prison. What she couldn't foresee was that her story was only beginning, and that the choices born from her desperation would destroy far more than just her own dreams. The months following Hiba's discovery transformed the Al Raha Beach Villa into a cage. Each morning brought the same suffocating routine: helping Tariq dress, cutting his food, managing his medications, listening to his excited chatter about cartoon characters as if they were real people. The modern kitchen became her command center for constant vigilance, keeping her husband safe while her own dreams withered. Her makeup business operated from a converted bedroom that felt more like a lifeline than a workspace. When brides arrived for appointments, Hiba would perform the role of successful entrepreneur, even as clients began noticing changes. The way her smile never reached her eyes, how her hands trembled applying delicate eyeliner, moments when she'd stare into the distance, seeing something far beyond the mirror. Tariq inhabited his innocent world with the pure joy of eternal childhood. His days unfolded in predictable patterns: coloring books, building blocks, and his treasured smartphone used exclusively as a camera to document everything that caught his interest. He wandered through villa and garden, capturing random moments with genuine enthusiasm: butterflies, shadows, people in unguarded instances. His sweet gestures became both comfort and torment. He'd appear with wilted flowers from the garden, beaming with pride, unable to understand why tears would spring to her eyes. Social isolation proved almost as devastating as the marriage itself. Other wives in Abu Dhabi's Egyptian community maintained polite distance, their conversations carefully superficial. Invitations to couples' events became exercises in creative excuses. Hiba couldn't bear sitting through dinner parties where women discussed their husbands' careers, travel plans, romantic gestures. Her business appointments became her only source of adult conversation. Faris's retirement left him with considerable time to notice Hiba's obvious decline. He observed her weight loss, dark circles under expertly applied makeup, the way she moved through the house like someone sleepwalking through life. His initial gestures were appropriately concerned, bringing favorite sweets, asking about business, offering help with Tariq's demanding care. The breakthrough came after Tariq's meltdown over a broken toy left Hiba exhausted and sobbing in the kitchen. Faris found her there, witnessing her complete breakdown without judgment. "I see how hard this is for you," he said quietly, his voice carrying understanding that penetrated years of pretense. "You're carrying a burden no one your age should bear." That conversation opened floodgates sealed for months. Hiba talked about abandoned dreams, impossible business plans, the crushing loneliness of living with someone who could never know her. Faris listened with attention she hadn't experienced since marriage, sharing his own loneliness since his wife's death, fears about Tariq's future, guilt over their deception. These late evening conversations became routine over tea in the quiet kitchen. They discussed current events, personal philosophies, topics Tariq could never engage with. Faris revealed intelligence, progressive views about women's rights and ambitions. For Hiba, these moments became precious islands of connection in an ocean of isolation. The shift from concern to danger happened gradually. Comfort hugs lasted longer than necessary. During conversations, they sat closer on the kitchen bench, knees occasionally touching. Ferris's hand would rest on her shoulder when she became emotional, his touch lingering with unspoken intention. The evening that changed everything began with a violent thunderstorm knocking out neighborhood power. Tariq, frightened by lightning, fell asleep early after hours of Hiba's reassurance, leaving them alone in candlelit darkness. Their conversation turned to Hiba's deepest regrets. Abandoned international expansion, creative projects, the simple dream of being truly known and valued. When Ferris wiped away her tears, his touch sparked something building for weeks. The desperate kiss that followed was born from months of emotional starvation and mutual loneliness. They broke apart immediately, shocked by the intensity, by how natural it felt despite knowing how wrong it was. 2 weeks of careful distance followed, speaking only when necessary, avoiding eye contact, pretending the connection never happened. But the memory lingered like forbidden promise, coloring every interaction with unspoken possibility. The second incident occurred during another power outage, as if darkness was required for acknowledging what daylight made impossible to justify. This time, when eyes met across the candlelit kitchen, neither pulled away. The kiss was longer, deeper, accompanied by whispered confessions about suppressed loneliness and desire. Hiba's internal voice echoed with dangerous justification. This is wrong, but it's the only time I feel alive. In Ferris's arms, she wasn't caregiver or victim. She was simply a woman being desired by someone who saw her true self. Standing in that darkened kitchen, both understanding they'd crossed an uncrossable line, neither could foresee how this stolen moment would ultimately destroy not just their lives, but the innocent man sleeping peacefully above them. The connection that began in desperate loneliness would end in devastating exposure, transforming their secret sanctuary into the very weapon that would tear their family apart forever. If you're finding this story compelling, please take a moment to subscribe to Crime Canvas. These stories take extensive research and careful handling. Your support through subscription truly motivates our team to continue bringing you these important, real-life accounts with the depth and sensitivity they deserve. What began as stolen moments evolved into an elaborate double life that consumed both Hiba and Ferris with its intoxicating blend of passion and danger. Their relationship settled into carefully orchestrated patterns that seemed to prove they could maintain their secret indefinitely. Afternoon encounters became routine during Tariq's predictable nap time, when the villa fell into its daily quiet hour between lunch and evening prayers. These stolen intimacies took place in Hiba's bedroom. The very space where she had once cried herself to sleep over her trapped circumstances now transformed into a sanctuary of forbidden desire. Late-night visits followed a different rhythm entirely. After ensuring Tariq was deeply asleep, Ferris would slip quietly down the marble hallway to Hiba's room, where they would spend hours talking, touching, building an emotional connection that went far beyond physical attraction. They developed elaborate cover stories for their increased time together. Ferris was teaching Hiba about property management. They were planning home improvements. He was helping her understand family finances. Their careful timing and practiced deception made them increasingly confident that their secret was safe. Both found ways to justify what they knew was morally wrong. Ferris convinced himself that his son could never be a real husband to any woman, that Tariq's condition made their marriage a legal fiction rather than a genuine union. "You deserve to be loved by someone who can actually love you back," he would whisper to Hiba during their intimate moments. "What we have isn't betrayal. It's what should have been from the beginning." Hiba's internal reasoning was equally self-serving, but no less sincere. She told herself this wasn't betrayal, but survival. That she had been forced into an impossible situation and deserved whatever happiness she could find. "I'm not hurting anyone," she would repeat like a mantra. Tariq doesn't understand what marriage means anyway. Their relationship deepened beyond physical attraction into genuine emotional attachment, creating a private world where they could be the people their circumstances had prevented them from becoming. Meanwhile, Tariq continued his innocent documentation of daily life, his smartphone camera capturing everything that caught his interest. His photo albums filled with hundreds of random images. Breakfast plates, television screens showing his favorite cartoons, family members in various states of activity and rest. To him, every moment was worth preserving, every scene equally interesting. His parents had long ago dismissed this habit as harmless entertainment, never thinking to examine what their intellectually disabled son was actually recording. As months passed, the relationship's intensity made Hiba and Ferris increasingly careless. There were close calls that should have served as warnings. Tariq almost walking in during an afternoon encounter, only stopped by Hiba's quick thinking in claiming she was resting with a headache. A neighbor mentioned noticing Ferris spending unusual amounts of time at home, commenting that retirement was certainly agreeing with him. Hiba's closest friend from her makeup business began asking pointed questions about her improved mood and obvious weight gain, wondering if there might be happy news to share. Rather than increasing their caution, these near misses only seemed to fuel their confidence. They began planning secret outings to remote areas of Abu Dhabi, drives along the coast toward Ras Al Khaimah, shopping trips to malls in distant Emirates where they wouldn't encounter anyone from their social circle. These expeditions were disguised as family errands, with Ferris claiming he was helping Hiba source materials for her business or showing her properties he was considering for investment. During these private moments, their conversations turned increasingly toward an impossible future. Ferris spoke in hypotheticals about what their life could be like together, how they could travel, the business expansion he could fund for her. Hiba found herself torn between guilt over these fantasies and genuine feelings that had grown stronger than she ever expected. What had begun as desperate escape from loneliness was becoming something she couldn't imagine living without. Tariq's innocent photography continued capturing everything around him, his growing collection now inadvertently documenting evidence that would destroy multiple lives. His albums contained images of Ferris leaving Hiba's room in the early morning hours, intimate conversations between the two adults who thought themselves unobserved, private moments that revealed the true nature of their relationship to anyone who understood what they were seeing. But Tariq processed these images the same way he processed everything else, as interesting patterns and familiar faces without deeper meaning. The anniversary celebration that would expose everything began as Ferris's romantic gesture disguised as family obligation. After 3 years of their secret relationship, he announced plans for an elaborate 10th wedding anniversary party at their villa, complete with decorations, catered dinner, and entertainment for 37 close family members flying in from across the region. Hiba felt deeply uncomfortable with the intimate family attention this would bring, knowing how many questions and conversations she would need to navigate, but she couldn't object without raising suspicions. Ferris's most dangerous decision was incorporating Tariq's photography into the celebration. He planned to create a family slideshow using their large-screen television, showcasing a decade of memories that would demonstrate what a happy, successful marriage looked like to their gathered relatives. The idea of using Tariq's extensive photo collection seemed perfect. Who better to document family life than the sweet, innocent son who loved taking pictures? Tariq was thrilled to contribute his photographs to the celebration, helping his father transfer hundreds of images from his phone to the computer. The process took several evenings, with Tariq explaining each picture's significance in his simple, enthusiastic way. Neither Ferris nor Hiba carefully reviewed the complete collection, trusting that Tariq's childlike perspective would have captured only innocent family moments. The technical setup seemed straightforward. A laptop connected to their large television. A carefully curated slideshow that would play during dinner, showcasing 10 years of what appeared to be marital happiness and family harmony. What they didn't realize was that Tariq's innocent documentation had captured the truth of their secret world in devastating detail, creating an accidental archive of evidence that would soon be displayed before every person whose opinion mattered most to their family's reputation. As the anniversary date approached, neither Hiba nor Ferris could have imagined that their most carefully planned celebration would become the instrument of their complete destruction, or that the innocent young man whose disability had brought them together would unknowingly provide the evidence that would tear their secret world apart forever. The evening of December 15, 2019 began with the kind of celebration that Abu Dhabi's expatriate community treasured most. An intimate gathering that honored tradition while showcasing prosperity. Ferris's spacious villa in Al Raha Beach had been transformed into a vision of elegance. Golden flowers adorned every surface. Traditional Arabic music played softly through hidden speakers, and the warm glow of string lights created an atmosphere of joy and abundance. 37 of their closest family members had traveled from across the region to celebrate what appeared to be a perfect marriage reaching its 10-year milestone. Hiba moved through the evening like an actress playing the role of her lifetime, stunning in gold-embroidered attire that caught the light with every graceful step. She received embraces and compliments from Faris's brothers and their wives who had flown in from Cairo. Her own parents and siblings beaming with pride at their daughter's apparent happiness. Tariq's maternal aunts who spoke fondly of the sweet boy they had watched grow into a devoted husband. The catered dinner spread across the main room and garden created the perfect backdrop for photographs and conversations that would normally become treasured family memories. Tariq himself was the picture of excitement, practically bouncing in his new outfit as he moved between groups of relatives. His innocent joy infectious to everyone around him. Big party at home, he kept announcing to anyone who would listen, clapping his hands together with the pure delight of someone for whom such celebrations were magical experiences beyond ordinary comprehension. After dinner, as tradition demanded, the family gathered in the main living room for the special presentation Faris had prepared. The large television screen dominated one wall, connected to his laptop, which contained what he had carefully curated as 10 years of memories. A slideshow meant to showcase the happiness and harmony of Tariq and Hiba's marriage. The 37 guests arranged themselves on sofas and chairs, creating an intimate circle that made everyone feel like witnesses to something special and personal. Tariq could barely contain his excitement as the presentation began. My pictures," he called out, clapping enthusiastically as his father dimmed the lights and pressed play. The slideshow opened beautifully with wedding photographs that drew admiring comments from the gathered relatives, followed by images of family gatherings, holiday celebrations, and everyday moments that painted a picture of domestic bliss spanning an entire decade. Hiba and Faris exchanged what they hoped were subtle glances across the crowded room, both fighting to maintain composure while their hearts raced with the tension of their dangerous performance. Every image that appeared on screen felt like a potential threat, though they had convinced themselves that Tariq's innocent perspective would have captured only appropriate family moments. The catastrophe began without warning. 3 years into the slideshow's chronological journey, an image flashed onto the screen that made time seem to freeze. There, in stark clarity, was Faris, shirtless, clearly captured in the early morning hours, exiting what was unmistakably Hiba's bedroom. The next slide showed Hiba herself in a disheveled robe, her hair messy, caught in the reflection of her bedroom mirror as she hastily tried to fix her appearance. The third image was perhaps most damning of all. Both of them in intimate conversation in the kitchen, sitting far too close together, their body language speaking of a relationship that went far beyond appropriate family interaction. The initial reaction was confusion rather than immediate understanding. In the dim lighting of the living room, some guests squinted at the screen, uncertain about what they were seeing, but recognition dawned quickly among those sitting closest to the television. The collective gasp that followed seemed to suck all oxygen from the elegantly decorated space. 37 pairs of eyes turned from the screen to stare at Hiba and Faris, watching in real time as the color drained from Hiba's face and Faris stood frozen, unable to speak or move. In that moment, years of careful deception crumbled into devastating truth, witnessed by every person whose opinion mattered most to their family's reputation. Tariq, completely oblivious to the catastrophe unfolding around him, continued clapping with delight. "That's my Baba and my Hiba," he announced proudly, his innocent joy creating a grotesque contrast to the horror spreading through the room. The explosion of reaction was immediate and devastating. Close family members fumbled for their phones, some to record the evidence, others to call absent relatives who needed to know immediately what they had witnessed. Hiba's mother collapsed backward into her chair, her face pale with shock as her husband frantically tried to revive her. Brothers and male cousins began shouting accusations across the confined space, their voices echoing off marble walls in a chaos of anger, disbelief, and shame. Children who had been playing quietly in corners began crying from the sudden adult chaos they couldn't understand. Wives whispered furiously to each other in Arabic and English, trying to process what they had seen, while simultaneously calculating how the scandal would affect their own families standing in the community. Ferris's response was perhaps the most damning of all. Without a word of explanation or denial, he simply walked toward the front door of his own home. His silence spoke louder than any confession could have, leaving 37 witnesses to draw their own conclusions about what they had seen. As he reached for his car keys, Hiba finally found her voice, attempting to speak to the devastated gathering of family members who had once respected and loved her. But what could she possibly say? How could she explain 3 years of deception to people who had traveled across continents to celebrate what they believed was a blessed marriage? Her words came out in broken fragments. Apologies, denials, desperate attempts at justification. But the evidence was literally still glowing on the television screen behind her. Tariq, increasingly distressed by the shouting and chaos in his familiar, comfortable home, began crying with the heartbroken confusion of someone whose safe world had suddenly become frightening and hostile. His tears only added to the tragedy of the moment, reminding everyone present that the most innocent person in the room was also the one who would suffer most from the consequences of actions he could never understand. As Ferris's car pulled out of the driveway and disappeared into the Abu Dhabi night, the intimate family gathering dissolved into complete devastation. Videos of the slideshow were already being shared through messaging groups, spreading the evidence to family members across 3 countries within minutes. The beautiful celebration that was meant to honor 10 years of marriage had instead become the funeral for everything the Mansour family had built over generations. If this story is affecting you, please consider subscribing to Crime Canvas. We handle these real-life tragedies with the respect and care they deserve, and your subscription helps us continue this important work. After fleeing his own home in devastating silence, Ferris drove through Abu Dhabi's glittering streets with no destination in mind, his hands gripping the steering wheel as the weight of what had just occurred settled over him like a suffocating shroud. The city he had called home for decades now felt alien and hostile. Every familiar landmark a reminder of the reputation he had spent a lifetime building and destroyed in a matter of minutes. Eventually, his car found its way to a quiet stretch near the Corniche, where the orange glow of street lamps reflected off the dark water, and the distant hum of traffic provided a melancholy soundtrack to his final hours. Sitting in his car, overlooking the water that had witnessed Abu Dhabi's transformation from humble pearl diving village to global metropolis, Ferris began typing what would become his final message to the world. His fingers moved slowly across his phone screen, each word carefully chosen as he attempted to explain the inexplicable and find meaning in the wreckage of his choices. The sleeping pills he had been saving since his wife's cancer battle years earlier were dissolved methodically into his thermos of tea, the bitter taste masked by extra sugar, as he prepared for the only solution that seemed to offer escape from the unbearable shame that consumed him. His suicide note, discovered later on his phone, revealed the depth of his self-awareness and regret. My son never understood what love was, and I used that innocent ignorance to destroy him. The shame of what I have done is unbearable. I have dishonored my family, my late wife's memory, and an innocent woman who deserved so much better than the trap we created for her. I cannot face tomorrow knowing what I have become. Please care for Tariq. He is pure and innocent in all of this tragedy. May Allah forgive us all for the pain we have caused. A morning jogger discovered his body the following day, peaceful in death under the gentle glow of the street lamp that had illuminated his final hours. The Abu Dhabi police investigation was swift and respectful, treating the case as a clear suicide with no suspicious circumstances. Media coverage remained minimal out of deference to the family's privacy, though whispers spread quickly through the expatriate community's interconnected networks. No criminal charges were filed against Hiba, as the laws were complex and the tragic circumstances surrounding Ferris's death created sympathy even among those who condemned her actions. However, the court of public opinion proved far more merciless than any legal system could have been. Hiba's carefully built makeup business collapsed within days as clients canceled appointments and refused to answer her calls. The woman who had once transformed brides into visions of beauty found herself toxic to the very community that had once celebrated her talents. After briefly returning to her parents' home, where the shame and disappointment were too heavy to bear, she quietly disappeared from Abu Dhabi within months. The last confirmed sighting placed her boarding a flight to Melbourne, seeking the anonymity that only a complete fresh start in a new country could provide. Tariq's fate proved perhaps the most heartbreaking of all. With his father dead and his wife gone, the gentle young man who had never understood the adult complexities swirling around him was placed in a specialized care facility in Sharjah. Care workers reported that he asked daily when Baba and Hiba would be coming back, his innocent mind unable to process the permanence of their absence. He spent his days drawing pictures of the three of them together, smiling faces in crayon that depicted the loving family he believed they had been. The ripple effects extended far beyond the immediate family. Both the Mansour and Hiba's family networks scattered globally, with relatives relocating to avoid the lingering shame and social ostracism that followed the scandal. The Mansour family property was sold quickly and quietly, erasing their name from Abu Dhabi's social circles as thoroughly as if they had never existed. Hiba's siblings found themselves unwelcome in social groups they had belonged to for years. Guilt by association made their own marriages and friendships casualties of the scandal. The 7-second video clip that captured the slideshow revelation never made it to public social media platforms, but it circulated endlessly through private messaging groups across the Gulf region. Known simply as the anniversary that killed a father, it became a cautionary tale whispered in community gatherings and shared as a warning about the dangers of deception and the fragility of family honor. The story's legacy extended beyond mere gossip, forcing difficult conversations within expatriate communities about arranged marriages, family obligations, and the support systems available for families dealing with intellectual disabilities. Some saw Hiba as a victim of circumstance, trapped by cultural expectations and family deception. Others viewed her as a destroyer of innocent lives who could have chosen divorce over adultery. Faris was simultaneously condemned as a manipulator and pitted as a desperate father who made tragic choices in impossible circumstances. The empty villa in Al Raha Beach stood as a monument to dreams destroyed and lives shattered. Its for sale sign in both Arabic and English attracted few serious buyers as the property's reputation preceded any viewing. The garden where Tariq had once picked wilted flowers for Hiba grew wild and overgrown, nature reclaiming what human ambition had built and human weakness had destroyed. In the end, 3 lives had been utterly destroyed by a secret relationship that lasted less than 3 years. A respected man chose death over disgrace. A young woman abandoned everything she had built to start over in anonymity. An innocent man lost the only family he had ever known, left to spend his remaining years asking questions that would never be answered. This tragedy raises uncomfortable questions about responsibility and victimhood in cultures where family honor often trumps individual happiness. Who bore the greatest guilt? The father who deceived a bride? The woman who chose adultery over divorce? Or a society that made honest solutions impossible? Perhaps the only clear truth is that Tariq, the most vulnerable person in this triangle of deception, paid the highest price for choices he never made and circumstances he never understood. The anniversary that killed a father became more than just a scandal. It became a stark reminder that secrets, no matter how carefully guarded, eventually demand payment in full. The glittering appearance of success and respectability that expatriate communities often work so hard to maintain proved as fragile as the desert sand beneath the city's towering ambitions. In seeking to protect family honor through deception, the Mansour family had ultimately destroyed it entirely, leaving behind only questions, regret, and the haunting image of an empty villa where love and lies had once coexisted in the shadows. This is the kind of story that stays with you, that makes you think about the choices we make and the lives we affect. If you value these carefully researched, respectfully told true crime stories, please subscribe to Crime Canvas. Your subscription genuinely motivates our entire team to continue this important work with the dedication and sensitivity these real-life tragedies deserve. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.